Welcome to the WildTrax 2026 demo and training video. I'm Doc Justice of Halter Technical, and today I'm going to walk you through how to set up a new project in WildTrax 2026. We're going to dive deep a little bit into some of the tips and tricks that make WildTrax stand out as a production sound recorder, and we're going to get you used to the interface and all of the power and versatility that it will afford you. So if you are unfamiliar, WildTrax is a software-based multi-track audio software platform built for Mac OS. It is capable of recording up to 512 tracks of audio to a single file at a time. You can record as many files to as many destinations, customize that audio to your liking, and customize your desktop experience so that you can work the way you need to. So for our purposes today, I am using a Yamaha DM3D console as my audio interface to bring our audio into my Mac computer. This Yamaha console is an incredible tool. It's relatively inexpensive and gives us 16 channels of transmit and 16 channels of receive audio over Dante. So I am using the Dante network to bring 16 channels of audio from that Yamaha console into my Mac. Now, you don't have to use Dante. You can use any USB audio interface, any networked audio interface, any way that you can ingest audio into your computer, WildTrax will be able to record it. For our purposes today, I'm going to assume that you already have that network set up, whether it's your Dante network, USB network, or other sort of networked device. We're going to assume that you've already have that patched and the audio is coming into your Macintosh clean. So let's move over to WildTrax and see exactly what we are working with here. On our main display, we can see right at the top, we call our project view. This top bar has a lot of information and a lot of tools available to you right away. You will see on the left-hand side, you will see two stop buttons, our stop recording and false start button, with the big record button on the opposite side. Our project info view contains our project name, our scene, slate, take, and roll numbers. And to the right of that, we have our time code and the duration of our recording. We're going to get into how to manipulate and edit all of this here as well. Below the project view, we have our panels. Currently, there are 3 panels showing. On the left, we have the metadata panel, and on the right here, we have the files panel and our tracks panel. You can use the view menu at the top to choose how many panels you'd like to view at any one time. So if you'd rather work with 4 panels at a time and have 2 instances of a panel running, you can. If you want to take it down to a single panel, you can do that as well. For now, I'm going to keep us at 3 panels. So we are going to start the way I start with any new piece of equipment that I get. I go straight to the settings. So in our WildTrax menu is our preferences. And here in preferences, we can set our experience for ourselves. So let's go left to right using the tabs here at the top of the preference pane. We start with general, which is going to be how you access the look and feel of your WildTrax experience, along with some other general settings that you can go through on your own as well. I do love the accent color, being able to change the color to anything that I might desire. I know a lot of folks have strong opinions on certain colors. Myself, I'm a big fan of green. Go figure. So I'm going to keep mine to green. Moving along, we have our timecode pane. Here's where you're going to set your timecode preferences. WildTrax is, of course, a production-first audio recorder, meaning that all of your audio will be synced to synced to timecode with robust metadata attached to it. Those will all be baked directly into your recorded audio files and represented in the sound reports that we generate. So how do we input timecode? Well, you have a lot of different time source options. Right now it's set to session time, which is how long our WildTrax window has been open. You can set it to zeros, set it to your system's time of day, or bring in some external timecode. You can do so via external LTC, which would be a audio channel that timecode is being played on. So if you have timecode brought into the input of your mixer and coming into WildTrax as an audio channel, WildTrax will decode that audio for you and turn it into timecode that's readable. We also have MIDI timecode available, so you can plug in via USB and get it right over MIDI. Or for the simplest approach, we have compatibility with Tentacle Sync and ambient wireless options. So I have in my hands a ambient Locket BT from our fine friends at Ambient. This Locket BT transmits over their ACN network, and it also transmits over Bluetooth. So if I power this on and we take a look at our WildTrax preference pane, I can go select Ambient Locket BT and connect, and it will find this Locket box here. It has automatically connected, and it tells us that it is set for 24 frames per second frame rate, and I have auto sync to that frame rate, so our WildTrax is also set for 24 frames per second. Now there's nothing left I have to do. Our timecode displays up in our project view. This is completely synced, and I no longer have to worry about timecode. Moving on, after that, we need to set our devices. If you are recording to a laptop or a computer with an internal microphone, chances are you are going to default to that internal mic. I have defaulted to my USB microphone that I have right here. But I want to change my input device to be the Dante network that I am using with my Yamaha console. I have Dante virtual sound card and Dante controller already on this computer and already patched. If you do not know how to patch a Dante network, visit Audinate's website, the creators of Dante. They have some great tutorials and training guides on how to do so very simply. But I'm going to change my input device to my Dante virtual sound card. And as soon as I do that, you can see in my tracks panel that I already have some audio coming in. For my output device, which is going to be for all my playback needs, I have already selected a multi-output device so that I'm able to play this audio for you as well as hear it in my own speakers. You do want to make sure that your input device's sample rate matches the sample rate that you are going to be recording. If you go and try to change your sample rate to one that is not supported, WildTrax will let you know ahead of time. After that, we have our sound report, which is going to allow you to change your export mode by files or by take. And that will all depend on your personal preferences, whether you're recording polyphonic or monophonic files, and exactly how you want your sound reports to look. We'll get into sound reports more in a moment. Next is where you are going to manage your account. WildTrax is available via a monthly or annual subscription, or you can purchase a lifetime license for that specific version. With a subscription, you may run WildTrax on 3 devices at any one time so that you can be recording a primary, a secondary, and have a backup all on the same account. So if you need to remove or add devices, you can do so here. There is also a button to manage your subscription where you can cancel, renew, upgrade, or downgrade your plan as you see fit. Lastly is our session. We have our WildTrax enabled to connect to other users and other devices. WildTrax A2 is available on the Apple App Store as a completely free download. And WildTrax A2 is for iPhone or iPad. This will allow you to have other users within your department or outside of your department be able to see your WildTrax session. They'll see the meters running in real time. They'll see the project info and see that they are on the correct scene or take number, and have everybody on production in sync. With our session pane, you'll be able to grant permissions to those devices. You'll be able to allow them to connect and grant them either read or write permissions depending on their needs. Right now, we don't have any clients connected, but we will get into that before the demo ends. So we have set our preferences for ourselves. Now we need to do some patching and get ready to record. As we said, we have some audio coming in, but I only have 8 tracks displaying in our tracks panel. The audio looks good, but we need to get all 16 tracks. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to my track count button in the toolbar here. I can manually add or remove tracks using the plus or minus, but a simpler way to add a bunch of tracks at once is to go to our track count. And I'm going to change it from 8 to 16. You could, of course, change that number all the way up to 512 if needed. So we added all of our tracks. We have 16 tracks, but it looks like only the first 8 are showing that they are armed and assigned, where our second set of 8 are unarmed and unassigned. So we need to do some patching. I'm going to change this metadata panel over to our input matrix. At the top of every panel is this handy panel switcher icon. By clicking on that, you bring up a list of available panels with their keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to go and change this panel to the input matrix. Now here, I see a handy matrix with all of the channels of audio coming into the computer along with all of my tracks. I'm going to go ahead and patch each one of these tracks to the correct input. And as I do, you can see audio popping up because they're already patched. Now, if I was patching many channels at one time, clicking one by one would make things difficult. So we have this handy hoverable shortcut tooltip to tell you that you can change your bars to load in and patch lots of tracks at once. Makes things convenient. All right, so we have patched, we have our tracks, we have audio coming in. Let's take a look at the rest of our tracks tool buttons. So we went over our track count, our add and remove tracks. Next is to be able to customize your view and go from horizontal to vertical. And of course, resizing these panels does resize the meters along with it, even in horizontal mode. You can see that it will also change the information inside of each meter as well. Next, we have our pre-roll and post-roll buffer settings. This is going to allow you to enable a pre-roll or a post-roll. Pre-roll meaning that all audio is recording to a buffer on your computer before you even press record. So as it's set with a 5-second pre-roll, when I press record, the 5 seconds of audio prior to me pressing record are also baked into that file. I can enable a post-roll as well, so that after I press stop, the record will keep going for this determined amount of length. With post-roll enabled, I may also cancel a stop button. So if I accidentally cut a recording take and I have post-roll enabled, within that post-roll window, I can hit record again and it will go back and continue that take recording as if I had not cut it. So I'm going to go ahead and keep our pre-roll and post-roll settings like this for now. Next, we have our meter smoothness, or our decay, which is where we can set how quickly we want those peaks to roll off. With a strong smoothness, the decay is very slow. I like to have it where I can see the peaks falling off, but it's totally up to you. Then, after that, we have a quick button to get back to the input matrix within this panel. And lastly, our global monitoring button. When I press this button, that allows me to listen to all of the incoming audio and monitor it directly from my output device. Now, as we are monitoring, I can mute different tracks or even solo them and be able to listen to individual tracks of audio. We even have panning buttons to pan between your left and right speakers or keep them centered. The solo buttons do work when global monitoring is not enabled, meaning that you can still solo any track without having to listen to all of them. Now, I also want to be able to name all of my tracks. So my tracks are, as you can hear, playing music tracked via different instruments. So I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to double click on a track name, and I am going to start to enter all of my track name info. Bear with me for 1 second. We can speed this up. All right. So now that we have all of our track names entered, all of that info is going to be baked right into the metadata of the files that we record, along with our timecode and our project info. So we have all of our tracks set. We have the audio coming in. We've listened to it. We know that our audio is good to go. So we just need to set up the rest of our project. Here's where our files panel comes in. This is where we're going to tell what files are to be recorded and where. We can record as many files as our computer can handle to as many different destinations as we need. By default, you can see that we have one file set to record, and in the very last box, you can see the destination that it is recording to. It is going to be set to your music folder, but we can set it to any folder on any device that we need. So I'm going to add in some folders for recording. I have already created 3 folders on my computer. So I am just going to go ahead and go straight to those folders. And I'm going to record to these 3 folders, which are on the internal drive of my computer. But you can set it for external SD cards, external SSD or hard drives, or any other networked device you have. You can also set it to a cloud-based service to record directly. So I'm going to go ahead and add these folders available for export. I'm adding them individually here. Now that I've added them within my drop-down box, I can see I have those folders available as export destinations, along with our original music folder. But I don't need that original folder, so I'm going to go ahead and use our remove folder button, and I'm going to remove that as an option. So now I have 3 folder options. I'm going to record 3 different sets of files for our demo here. You can use these buttons to add or remove files. I'm just going to add 2 more files, and then we'll set them. The next button in our files pane is our tokens or naming file. We can see that each file is currently named as so. But if I hit the expand tokens button and go from ABC to the brackets, we can see that behind the scenes, WildTrax is taking the project, the scene, the take, and the role, and using that to name every file. There is a handy list of available tokens as a hoverable tool. It's also available in the manual as well. You can add in your own text. You can add in your own tokens. For our purposes, I'm going to go ahead and remove the role token since we're not going to use that. So I am just going to use my project, my scene, and my take. And I'm going to go ahead and do that for each of these 3 files. And now when I go back, I can see that the project name, scene number, and take number are what's represented in the file. After that is a button that has already been toggled arm. This is auto arm tracks when assigned, which we saw happen when we went and patched our inputs. We saw that each of these tracks became armed and assigned. You can toggle off the arming while assigning if you so choose. Next is a very powerful tool. This is our file size and duration limits. This is where we're going to set our file splits. So depending on the type of production that you're doing, you may need to split long or large files into smaller or shorter segments and have WildTrax do that for you automatically. For example, if you're working in sports with lots of tracks, or you're working on an unscripted show like a reality show that's shooting 24 hours a day, you might want to split up those files by file size or by a specific time limit or by some combination of both. I could go ahead and set to choose my splits by duration, and let's say I want every file to be exactly 1 hour long. Well, even though I'm recording for 24 hours a day, this will go ahead and split it every hour of recording. You can also split it by any custom file size that you choose. Then, after our file size limits, we have our bit depth. WildTrax is capable of recording at 16 or 24-bit integer files, or it can record 32-bit float files. You're going to want to speak with your post-production to see what they prefer. For now, we're going to record at 24-bit integer files. Now, we've set those settings. We have our 3 files, but we're going to customize what's in each of these files and where they're going to be recorded. So our first file, we can see that it has all 16 tracks enabled and recording to that file. You can customize and record just the tracks that you want to a specific file. For now, I'm going to record all 16. I am going to record this as a polyphonic file, which means that all of our tracks are going to be recorded in one single file. Monophonic files would have every track being recorded as its own separate individual file, and a stereo file will make it a stereo audio file with just 2 tracks. So we're going to record this one as polyphonic. Now we have our option to chunk out that file into separate smaller files from there. So there are certain editing programs that can only handle a certain number of tracks. For example, if your editor is using Adobe Premiere, it can only handle files that have 32 tracks of audio or less. So if you're recording more than that, you may want to split those files into 32 tracks each. So if I was recording 64 tracks of audio, I could type in 32 in my chunk, and it will create 2 separate files of 32 tracks each. Being that we're recording 16 tracks, we don't need to do that for here. We can set our audio type. WildTrax records to the RF64 wrapper of WAV files. If you are unfamiliar, RF64 is the modern day version of the broadcast WAV file that contains a lot more metadata and allows for a lot more customization of those files than the obsolete broadcast WAV file. The MP3 file is still sometimes requested primarily by transcription services or other folks that need compressed audio of just the 2-track mix. So we're going to record our WAV files. We're going to record this file into our poly file. And in fact, I could take that file and I could then mirror to these additional folders. So if I'm recording to a slower drive, for example, a external SD card writer, I can go ahead and mirror my files to that card writer so that it's not constantly writing, but as files finish, they then get copied to that drive. Here we're going to select our poly file. For my next file, I'm going to set all 16 tracks to be mono files, again at RF64, and we're going to record those to our mono folder. And then lastly, we're going to record an MP3 with just our mix tracks, our mix left and mixed right, as a stereo MP3. And we're going to put that in our MP3 folder. So we have all of our record destinations set. We know that we're recording 3 different files to 3 different destinations. We know that all of our tracks are assigned to write to those files. But we need to set our project's metadata itself. So for that, I will go back to our metadata panel. In our metadata panel, we show here a split view between the current take, meaning if we are not in currently record mode, we are working on the next take to be recorded, and you can set the one after that. If you are in record mode, current reflects the take that is in record at the moment. So the project is typically the name of our movie or TV show or video. For this example, we're just going to rename our project to our 2026 demo here. We will call it Scene 1, and we can see here that we have slate, take, and roll with buttons above each one. These buttons reflect an auto increment. So with auto increment enabled, we start on take 1, it will automatically set the next take to take 2, take 3, and so on. My scene reset button here will, with this enabled, as I change my scene number, we will reset the take back to take 1. You can, of course, enable or disable these for either slate, take, or roll as needed. Lastly, in the metadata panel, we have our notes field. This notes field, you can write any note that you may wish post-production to be aware of. What is very powerful within WildTrax is our time-coded notes. At the top here in our toolbar, we have our new marker button. When I press that, it will drop the current time code into the notes field. And I can make a note such as airplane overhead to let post know that at that exact moment an airplane flew and ruined our take. So to check that time code and be aware of it. You can add as many markers as needed for as many different notes as you need to make post aware of. To the right of our new marker button, we have a quick bank of notes that we can customize for the notes that we use the most. You can add in your own notes and quickly drop them into the notes field with a button press to make things simpler and faster for you. And the button all the way to the right will change the orientation of the current and next fields. You may also drag to hide them completely or use the tabs to change them. So we have our metadata set. We have our timecode set. We have our audio set, our files exported. We have our tracks named. We are ready to record. When I press the record button, we will see the handy red glow around the screen to indicate that we are in record mode. The record button does light up red, and our tracks buffer turns red as well to indicate that we are in record mode. Now, while we are in record, we can, of course, toggle on our global monitoring and listen to what we are recording. We can also switch a panel to our spectrum analyzer as the song that I have on loop resets. The spectrum analyzer is going to show the incoming audio on any specific track. So you can change any track number or name and see the incoming frequencies on that specific channel. This is a real-time analyzer, so use it to EQ, to add in your effects, whatever is going to help your recordings be the best that they can be. The spectrum analyzer is there to help you. Now, up here, as we said earlier, my stop options. The false start button, if I press it, I have it set in my preferences to give me a warning. It said, hey, did you mean to press false start? If I select OK, it will now label this take as a false start. It will go back to take 1, and it will put this false start in a false start folder. All of that is customizable. You can even change how those false starts are labeled, whether you want them in a folder or not. I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. I'm going to keep recording, and now I'm going to press stop and stop the recording. When I do that, going back to my metadata, we can see that the next take is set to take 2, is set to take 2 up here. So that when I go to record again, we are now on take 2. And I'm going to go ahead and stop that record as well. So I've recorded 2 separate takes. We're already on take 3. But what happened to those takes? Where do they live? Where can I find them? You can, of course, find them in your Finder on your computer by going to the folder that those files were created in. Or you can go to our handy Sound Report panel. The Sound Report panel will bring up each of our export folders as we designated them in our Files pane. They come up as tabs. Looking at these tabs, we can see the audio that we recorded listed in a spreadsheet mode. Now, we are looking at our mono folder. So this folder recorded all 16 of those tracks as separate monophonic files, which is why you see all of these files here, complete with their time code. And the name of the files has the track name at the end of it, and we can see that the track has each of their track names as track 1, since there is only 1 track per file. If I go to my poly folder, we can see that we recorded 2 takes, take 1 and take 2. And if I scroll, I can see all of the metadata that we had set, including the notes that we made for take 1, and all of my track names. Now, all of these fields are editable. So if I need to go ahead and change the name of a track, I can double click that track name and update the track. And it will update not only the metadata in that file itself, but it will update here reflected in the sound report. I can also change out our time code, our frame rate. Any info that I need to change can be here. You'll also see that we have a play button. This play button will play the audio that had been recorded and be reflected in a waveform at the bottom. This waveform you can scrub through and check the individual wave files. You'll know that we are in playback mode by now the green glow around the display. So let's go through our sound report tool buttons. I'll start with the second button first, since it is auto enabled by default. This is what enables auto saving of sound reports, meaning that every time we record a file, the sound reports will be updated in every folder across all of your file export destinations, all at the same time. So there's no need to generate sound reports at the end of the day. This will update them as you go. You can, of course, disable the auto generation. The first button is the manual save button, where you can individually save sound reports as you generate them. Third button is our info, where we can add in even more detailed information to our sound reports. We can add in our own name and contact information, or we can add in any custom fields that we see fit. Here's where you can give the rest of your crew credit if you want to add in your boom operator, your utilities or A2s, any assistants. You can add the director. You could also add in the microphones that you used. You can give post-production any info here. It is unlimited in what you can add to your sound reports. After that, we can toggle on and off the waveform display. And then if you need a quick way to get back to the sound report preferences pane, this button will open up the preferences panel and go to the sound report pane for you. So playing back those files is great, but what if we wanted to play back some files that weren't recorded directly within WildTrax. Say we have a bunch of playback options for set. We have a couple of nice additions to WildTrax 2026 in the form of new panels. I'll start with our sample pad. Our sample pad, I already have 2 samples loaded up here. You can drag and drop wave files onto your sample pad panel, or use the plus tool to add in a new sample. And this is going to play back sounds as you click on them. Before I do that, I'm going to right click, secondary click on a sample pad to show you each sample pad's options. Here's where you can change the name of that pad or remove it. You can change the color of the pad to something else. You can change your fade durations. Here's where you're going to set your routing so that it will go to any specific speaker or any specific output device that you choose. You can also reload or change the file and then set the trigger mode. The trigger mode is what happens when you click. For latched, if I do a simple single click, it will play that sound all the way through and I can click again to stop it. Momentary will be for as I am clicking and holding down my click, it will play, and when I let go of the click, it will stop playing. So for this sound, I'm going to have it as momentary, whereas the second sound, I'm going to have it kept as latched. And as I click, you'll see it only plays as I'm holding it down, versus our latched plays the whole way through. So that's fun, especially when you have lots of samples going to lots of different output locations. For longer form playback, we have our playlist option. This is where you can set an entire sequence of sounds to be triggered, whether they're songs or sound effects or some other source of audio. You can set them in a complete list to be played all the way through. We have our inspector view at the bottom, so as I click on any of the files that I've already dragged and dropped in, now you can, again, drag and drop them yourself or add new files. Our inspector view is where you can set the color, the output routing, change the name of it, everything that you could do in the sample pads as well. Our play button will trigger the entire playlist in a row. It's a great way to play music on set or just go through a list of sounds for playback. I happen to like my 90s dance music. Don't judge me. And after that, we can toggle our inspector on or off. So that is how we record, and that is how we play back files. Lastly, there's one final panel in WildTrax that is very helpful for working with files that have already been recorded, and that is our toolkit. The toolkit is great for working with files that were recorded prior to your session, whether or not they were recorded via WildTrax or from some other hardware or software recorder. You can drag any audio file from those other recorders onto the toolkit, and it will display just as our sound report did. So for example, I am going to take a file that we did just record in WildTrax, but I am going to go from my Finder and drag and drop this file onto our toolkit. And now it displays just as it displayed in our sound report panel. But if I had a sound file recorded from a Sound Devices or Zaxcom recorder or recorded in Pro Tools or Audacity. Any of those files can be manipulated here. I can go ahead and edit any of the metadata just as I could on the sound report. We can change the sample rates, we can change the track names, and we can play back that file as well. We can also take this polyphonic file that we dropped in and split it into several monophonic files, or remove tracks and process our split into separate tracks. You can also combine mono tracks into polyphonic. So as you can see, working with WildTrax is very easy, very customizable, and very powerful. There is another way to work with WildTrax, and that is via our WildTrax A2 application for iPhone or iPad. WildTrax A2 is a free download on the Apple App Store. You can see I have a mirrored version of my iPhone up on the screen now. When you load WildTrax, you will start scanning now, and it will see the WildTrax session that is appearing on the same Wi-Fi network. So I can connect to it, and I've already set my permissions in my preferences panel in WildTrax, which let's just bring up here to remind us. When I go to session, you can see now that my iPhone is connected. It is approved to auto join, to read and write, have read and write permissions. So going back to our phone, pardon me, as we go back to our phone, you can see that we have all of our tracks, all of our time code, our metadata showing here. This is all happening in real time over Wi-Fi. I can scroll through my list of tracks. I can change to any panel just as I would in WildTrax itself. Anything that you can edit in WildTrax, you can edit in WildTrax A2. I can even go to my sample pad and trigger remotely my sounds. Anything can be viewed over the Wi-Fi signal. So looking at my tracks, I can also set WildTrax into record. I can stop the roll from here as well. And I can change the metadata just as we could in WildTrax. And again, you can set users' permissions to be able to do this or to just be read-only. There are lots of other things you can change. You can change the view of your timecode. You can scroll our toolbar and go to layout and completely change the way your meters are viewed. I can change whether or not I have the name over the meter, or I am displaying the name or any of my tool buttons. I can change the meter size versus the name size, and I can change the font within each meter as well. It's very customizable. Any changes I make in WildTrax A2 will be reflected in WildTrax right away. Again, this is the remote control for WildTrax. It's great to give to a crew member like a boom op or utility, but it's also nice to be able to give to a script supervisor, a producer, to be able to make sure that the entire production is on the same scene and take, or that time code is synced, and to have another set of eyes on WildTrax. This also works in landscape mode as well as portrait mode. And on the iPad, you can view a lot more tracks at once as well. So that is WildTrax 2026 in a nutshell. There are many, many ways to customize this program and make this platform yours and yours alone. I hope that today's training was helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, the best place to join the conversation is on Facebook at our WildTrax Users Group Facebook group. That is where you can see how other users are also using WildTrax and get up to the minute information on WildTrax as it develops. There is also a nice tool built within WildTrax. In our help menu is a send feedback option where you can send feature suggestions or bug reports directly to our development team. It's a nice way to speak directly to us and be sure that your comment is seen. Thanks again for tuning in. Please be on the lookout for updates to WildTrax 2026 and future versions as they become available. All info is posted at our website at haltertechnical.com or wildtrax.io. You can reach me on social media at Halter Technical if you want to speak with me directly. I appreciate you joining us today, and we will see you next time for some more WildTrax tips and training. Take care.